I gave him everything, my love, my heart, my trust, but it was like he didn't see me. He kept me at a distance and never let me in. Why do narcissists avoid real intimacy? What's the point of pretending to love someone if there's no real connection?
What a great question. I think narcissists will want to be in a relationship because it looks good for them. And they are trying to get supply or fuel. Remember, they're trying to get people to adore them, to give them energy and give them accolades. So they do get in relationships, and it can be, it can be an okay relationship, but it isn't going to feel like really heavy emotional connection that maybe another typical relationship would feel like.
Okay, so this is like your answer to like what's the point of pretending to love someone if there's no real connection, that their motivation for the relationship is more like maintaining the image to secure supply. And can you talk more about to secure supply? What does like that mean? Like secure, like why would that be a reason they pretend to love someone even though there's no real connection?
Yeah. Well, see, I don't think they think there is no real connection.
Okay, so you
They
think
don't.
that they think this is real connection and
This
okay.
is this is their only type of connection, is to be this way. They don't know anything different. So, um, why would they need supply? Well, they're really insecure people, and they need someone to validate them consistently and constantly so they can feel better about themselves. And being in a relationship, that's kind of what you do. You give your partner a lot of love and attention and validation and comfort. That's exactly what we do in healthy relationships. It's just in healthy relationships, it's generally reciprocal.
Yeah. Do you also think that some at least some narcissists do they have like fear of abandonment, which would be a reason like they kind of quote unquote pretend, or this is just what they think the real connection is, and why they then pretend to love someone if there's no real connection because they also don't want to be abandoned. Like they, even if they don't form deep connections, they still don't want to be alone. Would that also be part of
I
it?
think that's probably true. They don't want to be alone, and a fear of abandonment. I think that drives most of what they do. But generally speaking, they've always got a backup supply of attention and adoration. The supply is kind of endless for them because they can go seek it elsewhere.
Okay, yeah. And so this is mm, I'm also thinking because this question kind of had two questions in one. So first it was like, why do narcissists avoid real intimacy? And then what's the point of pretending to love someone if there's no real connection? Can we talk
I don't
more
think
about,
I don't think
mm,
they're pretending to love.
okay, can you talk more about that?
I think they are loving in the only way they know how.
Mm,
It's just not enough for healthy people.
yeah,
I don't think it's a pretend. Like they honestly think they're doing a good job.
yeah. So at least now that if you say that, then would you also then say that in this question, it's like, oh, why do they avoid real intimacy? It's the word avoid also sounds like an active choice, like there's something that they're like on purpose doing, but it's more about that it's about inherent incapacity to avoid that be really intimate. So maybe they're not just even avoiding, it's just, that's just their
Is
limitations.
their limitations. That's exactly right. It is not that they are actively choosing, I'm going to do this on purpose. This is just how they are. And look, the good news is we get to decide whether we want that kind of a relationship in our life.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, if it's more about the inherent incapacity that, like, than like, okay, they're actively choosing not to, it might be easier to move forward because then we are
Yeah.
like, okay, this is not just the way they are wired. Because if we are thinking like, oh, they're actually choosing this, maybe I can make them change their mind. Maybe there is something that I can do to make them think differently. But this is like, if you see it that way, it's like, yeah, what you have to decide what you do.
They're very limited in the way that they can love people.
Mm. But then that makes me think that um, I sometimes like see on social media or like in just in discussions about narcissism and narcissistic abuse, like stuff like oh, they withhold intimacy on purpose and as a power and control tactic, do you think that's then like, no, they don't really do it on purpose? That's again just, um,
Well,
just or what? Yeah, can you say?
yeah, so I would assume that they just like we all do at times have really poor coping skills for uncomfortable emotions. And yeah, if they're going to withhold, intimacy or do some childish behavior, sure, they're trying to get a need met. Most of us are when we do these childish things, but see, they don't have a capacity for all the other healthy things that they should do. So their skill set is really small. So, whereas if we were to do something, we would come back and go, I know that was silly. I shouldn't have done that. They're not going to do it that way because they don't know what else to do.
Mm.
So, if they're withholding intimacy or maybe doing a coping mechanism that looks pretty punishing, I think that's because they are so incredibly limited. But again, you get to make a decision on whether you want to stay in that kind of a relationship.